Well, that was one of the worst things I've ever seen.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. The Tigers drop one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen in my life. 31 years of being an Auburn fan. This feels worse. This feels worse than New Mexico State. Auburn loses 21-14 in a fashion that doesn't really seem to make sense because you can't just point to one thing. It's all bad. Everything looked really, really bad today. The blocking stunk. Peyton Thorne looked awful. The receivers couldn't catch consistently. The defense in the first half couldn't let, a quarterback that's okay in the SEC just torch them over and over and over again. And then you think, okay, well, in the second half, let's go all in on the best player on the team, the most proven player on the team. That is Jarquez Hunter. And then even he lets it just slip out of his hands, and really what kind of felt like the nail in the coffin when everything was just too late towards the end of it. I mean, this was a brutal showing. There's not one thing outside of Malik Blockton where you can look at and say, man, that was impressive. Second half adjustments for the defense. Okay, we'll leave that out. I think everybody agrees the second half of the defense I thought was pretty solid. But just everything about this, and I'm seeing a lot of Auburn fans saying, yeah, but. This was Cal. Cal isn't good. And they just came into your house and beat the crap out of you in every phase of the game of football. Their offense looked better. I mean, Mendoza was as efficient as it gets in the first half. Their defense was suffocating. They couldn't suffocate UC Davis. And somehow this offensive scheme that we felt so good about because, okay, yeah, you brought in all these new receivers. This offensive line looks good. And the running game. It's just the Cal defense was all over. This was so frustrating. I mean, I was texting with some folks and I forgot exactly who said it, but like, this is the kind of loss that feels like it's bigger than just this game. I mean, you talk about the expectations that Auburn had. You know, it's like, okay, can you overachieve and go 8-4, and then maybe if everything falls right, you go 9-3? No, you can't do that anymore. You can't do it anymore. I mean, Arkansas lost today, but like, do we feel super confident about Arkansas coming to town in 2 weeks? The pivotal game of the season, Oklahoma, in a few weeks. The whole quest was to go, can Auburn start 5-0 and beat Oklahoma? Because these first few games, and people are going to say, oh my goodness, it's because you overlooked them. One, what the media says should not impact the team. If that's the case, this team has much larger issues than what we just saw today. But everybody was able to look at Oklahoma being so important because Auburn was such a better team and roster than these first four teams on their schedule. And clearly that's not the case as much as we thought. And there were some specific moments in this game where you're like, what is going on? Like, that doesn't make sense. The 4th and 2 will be dissected a ton. The last pick by Peyton when he threw it to Cam Coleman, when it's clear as day that he's hurt. Like, why are you throwing it up to him? He can't move. He's hurt. He's clearly struggled to line up. He has to come out of the game. And for some reason, he's still in there. I know that there was some tempo because there was like 2 minutes left, but it's not like it was a 30-second situation. You had plenty of time to put a drive together. Don't leave the injured receiver on the field. Like, what are we doing? It's just you can't look at one matchup in one situation and think, oh my goodness gracious, this is going to be okay. mean, there's going to be some tough decisions and tough conversations internally about this team. And I do think you have to start at quarterback. Has Peyton Thorne shown that he could be a starting quarterback in the SEC? What are we waiting on? What are we waiting on at this point? Okay, yeah, he didn't have receivers. Okay. Let's go get Cam Coleman. Let's go get Keandre Lambert-Smith. Let's go get, all of these guys, the freeze 4 plus transfers. Great. He's got guys to throw to. Okay, well, the offensive line, I'm like, he got hit a lot. Don't get me wrong. I don't think the offensive line was perfect. And at times the offensive line did get bullied by Cal, but I don't think that's why Auburn lost to Cal, was because of the offensive line. Live chat, let me know if I'm way off on that, but I don't think that's the position group we need to be like pointing at, because I think a lot of that had to do with Peyton holding onto the ball too long, or just kind of like acting like he's Lamar Jackson back there as far as trying to create space. And also, like in the second half, they start running the ball more consistently. And then it was pretty obvious when they were going to actually like quit running it and pass it. And it seemed like Cal was blitzing a lot on second down. And it's like, all right, let's drop back on second down. All right, Jarquez Hunter just got us with a 4-yard run. Let's drop back and just set up third and double digits all freaking day. It's insane. It's insane. I mean, what did we all just watch together? What was that? Oh, Cal beats Auburn 21-14. It's insane. And the crazy guys, here's the saddest thing about all of this is, okay, Auburn's down 2 scores. It's 21-7. And it's like, okay, it does kind of feel like there's some momentum building. And boy, we needed every bit of help possible to get that second score. I mean, the fact that they called defensive pass interference in the end zone on that pick that Peyton threw, I was shocked by that. I mean, I just thought it was a bad throw by Peyton, and I thought that was, it's just brutal. It's just absolutely brutal. All right. We may have a guest pop in a few minutes. But yeah, we will respond to live chats in just a moment. What in the world was that? Give me your take. Give me your strongest take of the game. I want to hear it. That's coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is the best place to buy tickets, whether it's for Auburn football games. I imagine those just got a lot cheaper this year, and they're already super affordable thanks to our friends at Game Time. Download the free app. They've got a new feature called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Reacting to Auburn losing to Cal 21-14. Still just doesn't really seem right. I mean, it's really hard to put into words. Is this worse than New Mexico State? I think it is, because the loss to New Mexico State, you could point at and say, first year, he's building something. Hugh Freeze is building something. This one, it's like, okay, you've already kind of got your roster built, because the big thing was like, well, he doesn't have the guys to throw to. And now he does. He does have the guys to throw to. And look, the receivers weren't perfect. Like the first pick by Peyton, like Coleman should have caught it. It was off of Coleman, right? There was a situation on third down. Yeah, it was a third down play where like Rivaldo should have caught that ball. Like there's lots of holes here. But at some point, you've got to say, we got to quit making excuses for Peyton Thorne. And it's so like it's so alarming at this point where it's like I would love to know, like, did he ever even consider putting Hank Brown in? I was in a group text with some buddies, and I said at halftime, I'm like, do you consider Hank Brown at this point? They both laughed at me. And then I asked the question, if Hank Brown had played the full first half, I asked them, would Auburn have more than 7 points? And they said yes. I'm like, well, what are we talking about then? So my question to you is, if Hank played a larger chunk of the game, does Auburn have more than 14 points? And I think they do. I think they do. Am I crazy for that? Everybody's saying yes. Everybody's saying yes. All 1,100 of you in here are all saying yes. Oh, my goodness gracious. The catch by KLS was awesome. The catch by KLS was fantastic. That was great. And then just, man, what, I mean, the boog was so high when KLS made that toe grab. I tweeted out, man, it's so fun to have these receivers. And then everything just went kaput after that. Just went kaput after that. I mean, what's the lot? Like, what do we have to do at this point? Like, what's the realistic, like, situation where you have to have the conversation if you're the head coach of, okay, we've got to change quarterbacks. Is it after a game like this? Do you let him go more? Because from a timing standpoint, doesn't it make sense to do it now? What we saw Saturday, I mean, that was pretty dire. And everything that you had built up to this point, it's gone. I mean, this incredible, like, summer worth of recruiting, what you did to Alabama A&M, it's hard to, like, get warm, fuzzy feelings about any of that at this point. All right, Jake Crain and Company. What did we watch? What was that?
Well, you know, thank goodness I was in it for a while, because it kind of takes the emotion out of it, especially when you kind of know what's going to happen after the first quarter and a half. Here's what I'll say. First off, you got to give credit to Cal. You know, they flew from California to Auburn, Alabama, and SEC country. And dude, they beat us in every aspect. They beat us offensively. They beat us defensively. They beat us in special teams. Probably going to be one of the most underrated parts of this game. But you know, I put something out on Twitter, just kind of an instant reaction. I'm gonna tell you, I want to say this, Zach. It's I tell you, it's tough to be an Auburn fan, buddy. You know, you talk about fandom. It's you know, Auburn fans stick, and they need to stick through this. I know everybody's down right now, and they should be. But just from what I saw in the game is this. There's multiple problems. Peyton Thorne is not the only problem. The offensive line struggled to protect, especially against pressures. But Peyton Thorne, he can't see a blitz. He can't play at this level. You can't do this to the team anymore. And again, it's that because what's going to happen, the team's going to quit on. They can see it.
Gut reaction, Jake.
Like they
gut reaction. Does Peyton start next week?
I don't know. I think you open up the competition in practice this week, which is tough. And listen, I'm sure Peyton's a good guy. You know, I don't know him personally, but you've played 40 years of college football. You are what you are, man. It's kind of like DJU. Like you are what you are. There's not any getting it. He's not good enough to make up for deficiencies.
Well, and that kind of what makes this hurt a little bit, because at Michigan State, he had that 1 year because he had these NFL guys to throw to.
Yeah, he had Kenneth Walker and an offensive line, and Jaden Reed. Did you watch what he did the other night?
Friday night? Listen, Brazil. But and then it's like they go and get these guys, and it's like, oh, it didn't help.
Peyton Thorne has to drive the car. He can't be the car. That's the problem. And again, there's multiple problems. And you know, I don't want to put it all on him, but the dude can't do it. And again, what's behind him's probably not better. It's probably not better, but at some point you've got to do something different, because if he can play that bad and still maintain his position, then how can you tell the left guard when he plays bad that he can't get replaced, that he has to get replaced? You lose credibility with the team. This Peyton Thorne experiment, and this is why I think you saw Hugh Freeze publicly kind of talk about being a little remorseful about not going to the portal for a quarterback. That first drive, it was a little bit, you know, here and there. The ball hit the ground with Jarquez Hunter. On point, on time, on rhythm. Auburn goes down and scores. And then he's like Drew Barrymore from 51st States. He just forgets.
Mhm.
Auburn was wide open in the middle of the field on that 4th and 2. And I do want to say, I don't know if Cam Coleman's the primary read there. I don't know if Hugh looked at him and said, listen, if Cam's in one-on-one, throw this thing up. Let's let our big dog go eat. Keandre Lambert Smith. We don't know
the call. Sure.
Keandre Lambert Smith is wide open in man coverage. Go back and watch it, running across the middle of the field. And I'd be willing to bet that was probably his primary read. And again, there is multiple things going on, Zach, and this Tennessee game's coming on. I don't want to take up too much of your time here, but this was one of the most embarrassing offensive performance against a Cal team.
Is this worse than New Mexico State?
Not worse. I wouldn't say it's worse.
I think you can make the argument, Jake, because at least last year we had it's year one. He's building something.
It's an ACC team, but they were down a decent amount of starters. I tell you what, Justin Wilcox can coach too now. I mean, that dude.
Yeah. Good for that group.
Yeah, no and you got to give Cal their credit. But if you're an Auburn fan right now, what hurts the most is what you were talking about right before I got on here. This kills a lot of momentum. But I will tell you what it does. If I'm Deuce Knight and I'm watching that and you don't bring in another guy, buddy, I just threw 4 touchdowns last night. Let me come into Auburn year one and play. Because this Peyton Thorne stuff, he's an average player, probably a great person. Don't know him, and I don't want to say anything about his character. They said he's there, first one in the building, last one to leave. All that stuff's great. But if you don't play good, it doesn't matter. Like my washing machine works hard. Right? You got to do more than just work hard. And again, there's multiple problems. Offensive line was not good. I know the right tackle was beat up. Jarquez fumbled one time. There was some other stuff that was going on. The defense in the first half, for some reason in man coverage, we have no feel of when the ball is coming. We're not reading the receiver. It's not like in man coverage, you can just look back the whole time. Anybody that's saying that's not how you coach.
But at least the defense adjusted.
They did adjust. That's what I was going to say.
Like some big red flag.
No, that I thought the defense, DJ Durkin and them went in at halftime, realized what was going on. Because if you watch, Cal was doing a little bit of what Alabama A&M was doing against Auburn with the spacing stuff. And when Auburn would go zone, they would sit. And then when Auburn would go man, and they would put that tight end in the hip in the backfield, or they'd move him behind the guard, they were going play action and running him into the flat because Auburn was so condensed in the box on defense and he was wide open. Auburn adjusted to all that. This is not on the defense. And listen, it's year 2 of Hugh Freeze. I know people are going to be upset at him. Nobody is hurting worse than him right now. And that's no excuse. You get paid that amount of money. You can't come out and play like that. But what I will say is don't quit on Auburn. They've got to make some adjustments. It's early in the year, but I'm just worried that it's more than one thing. How do you not, Zach, as a quarterback that's played for 4 years in the Big Ten and the SEC, be able to identify a blitz? How many times tonight did Peyton Thorne throw the hot? The saying is you replace the blitz with the ball. That's what you do. How many times did you see him do that? 0 times. He looked just like he did against Texas A&M. And I'm not afraid to say it. He looked scared. Like, he looked scared to play quarterback at Auburn. Then you watch those last 2 drives at the end. He looked scared. Cam Coleman is hurt.
Just
Peyton
throwing it up
could see that he was hurt.
Throwing it up there.
And then I'm going to throw it just straight up to him right after he's hurt, asking the sideline to come get him, but you can't because it's a 2-minute drill. He has no awareness. He just, listen, hey, man, let's go be a GA, right? Let's start your coaching career now. You ain't playing in the league. You ain't playing in the UFL. Give him a clipboard. Let him coach the other guys up, open the competition up. And it feels like that's nosedive in the year, right? But if you keep putting that guy out there, you're going to lose credibility with the guys in the locker room. Like, it's a really hard place for Hugh Freeze to be in. I do not envy him, but just an absolute awful performance by Auburn offensively. And you got to, I tell you what, Cal's punter, wow. You talk about controlling the game.
Good for him.
He controlled the game in the second half, man.
No question. Jake, thank you, buddy. Thanks for hopping in.
I know you had a lot to say. Keep y'all's heads up, man. It's we weren't winning anything this year. I just didn't think it was going to be that bad.
No. I thought 8-4 was reasonable, but I don't know if it is anymore. 4 picks, 4 interceptions. It's tough. It's tough to deal with. Tough to deal with. And the thing that's so frustrating about this is when you went into it, and I'm sure Cal reacted to it defensively, and we can look at that when we watch the game again. If I watch that game again, I may not. But the when it came down to it at the end when they needed to score, they did all of these quick passes to the perimeter just to get the ball in the hands of a Malcolm Simmons and Robert Lewis. And they did one to Damari that didn't go for very far. But it's just, I mean, I'm a big Pats fan. I followed what they do for a long time. And it's like they would always call those drive starters, those quick passes to Edelman and Amendola and Hogan and those guys when they were doing their run. And it's like that works for any team that does it. And I don't understand, like, it worked on the drive that Auburn scored at the end when they just got the ball into the hands of the playmakers quickly at or behind the line of scrimmage. And it's like, where was that the entire time? And also, like, where was your desire to run the football in the first half? And, like, that's not stuff that Peyton decides unless it's all RPO and he just truly never gave the ball to Jarquez, which I find that hard to believe. But it is a possibility, but I find that hard to believe. It's like, this is on the coaching staff. Like, we all want to point at Peyton, but, like, this is on the coaching staff. Unless the coaching staff totally overhyped Peyton Thorne, which could be part of it, right? I mean, everything we heard from inside the program every single day was how great Peyton looked in practice and how great he looked at these scrimmages. And to me, there's a disconnect there. Is it a Jeremy Johnson thing where he's awesome in practice, and then when the lights are on, he can't figure it out? The thing that's so weird about Peyton Thorne is he did it at Michigan State when he had talent around him. And to me, it's just frustrating. 14 of 27 for 165 yards. I think he had 100 yards in the first quarter. He had Auburn had 106 yards in the first quarter. He ended with 165. What are we doing? What are we doing? 7 passing yards in the second quarter, 8 passing yards in the third quarter, 44 in the fourth. I assume most of that was on that scoring drive, which you needed assistance on with a questionable targeting call and an even more questionable defensive pass interference that you threw a pick in the end zone. Did y'all think that was a pick or a pass interference on the pick that got called back? It's insane. It's insane. And, like, I felt it. I felt like Auburn was going to win that game until the Jarquez fumble. That's just where I was at with it. And then it's like, oh, this could actually happen. This could actually happen. But I mean, the overall awareness of a lot of, like, the players, like with what Jake was saying, like, anytime something didn't go right on the field, Peyton just, like, instantly, like, the camera had a great shot, the ESPN2 broadcast of him just looking to the sidelines, like, looking for answers. And this is a dude who you brought in last year, and then you've anointed again to lead your team and to lead your offense. And the guy's always looking for answers. And the guy's always, like, he just never really seems that confident in close games. And that's obviously concerning from your quarterback. And so just, like, the situational awareness of all of this, it's brutal. I mean, even stuff like that's little, and I don't want to pick on Jarquez Hunter, but, like, the long run that Jarquez had when they were about to run out the clock at the end of the first half, and then, like, he doesn't go out of bounds. Like, what do you, like, well, it's just little stuff all over the place. And then there are some big things. I'm not as gung-ho on bashing the O-line as other people are going to be this week. If I do rewatch it, my opinion may change. But as of right now, I'm just not I'm not looking at the O-line being like, that's the major issue here. I think Peyton held onto the ball too long. I think the coaching staff has plenty of stuff that can happen in the RPO game or the screen game that can allow them to get rid of the ball quicker if they do think that the pass protection is a consistent issue. And I also think they should run the ball more on early downs, not just wait until you're in a hole in the second half. There's a lot of this that was not good. Like, there's a lot of this that is not good. And, like, was Peyton Thorne good? No. But it's not all him. There's a lot of things going on. Defense in the second half was great. I was really pleased with everything we saw there. And then they just broke. They just broke. And like, you're going to see that. You're going to see that happen when you don't get any help from your offense. You're going to see it. Keldrick Falk had a moment there that was incredible where he just took over the game. And we've talked about that all offseason. Like, can Keldrick Falk take that next step to where he's that type of defensive player that can take over the game where he's a problem? And he did it. Arguably the most pivotal part of the game where you felt like Auburn could grab some momentum back. Keldrick Falk did it. Hats off to Keldrick Falk. Jaron Thompson, and from a coverage standpoint, as the game got better, he had a key pass breakup there. Keontae Scott did not love what he did in the first half. In the second half, I didn't notice him as much, which at corner, that's totally okay. You take that. Kayan Lee needs to get better at being a tackler, but it's from a coverage standpoint, I thought he was fine. Was it Kayan who dropped the surefire pick six? I think it was. Hard not to think about that right now. Austin Keys in the second half I thought was great. Kieran Crawford had a few moments. He had 3 hits on the quarterback according to Auburn's stats. He lost contain a lot in the first half. That's got to get better. But goodness gracious, it's sad. Talking through it has helped though. All right, give me your takes. Give me your takes, your questions in the live chat. We'll hang out here for a few minutes. I just can't believe that just happened. I know it's like terrible content just to say that over and over again, but like there is a level of disbelief here. There is a level of shock here. I mean, I think Auburn's the better roster than Cal. But like Jake said, they flew from California to Auburn. They came into our house and they beat the crap out of us at every level of football. Every level of it. Offense, defense, special teams. They were just better. So we will see. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens as far as moving forward. You got to think they're going to have conversations internally about quarterback. They're going to have conversations about the defensive backfield, I'm assuming. All right, let's answer a few questions. Raymond asks, you said Zach. I'm assuming you meant Zach. Spelled it Z-A-C-H. Zach, are you concerned about the secondary as much as I am? Based on the second half, no. If it would have been the first half the entire game, yes. But they adjusted. Auburn's defense played good enough for Auburn to win the game. Like, to me, I think they got better at containment. I think they got better at pursuit. I think they got better at creating pressure and limiting separation. So whatever they did at halftime, I don't know if that was just a motivation thing or if it was scheme. But I'm not as concerned because of the second half. A lot of people in disbelief saying really radical things about the coach. Sure. Okay, yeah. So Justin says Peyton had a rough day, but the O-line couldn't block long enough. Maybe. I mean, we don't know what the calls are, guys. Like, you can't really make claims like that for him to make it to our 5-star receivers. Yeah, I mean, that's part of it to me is like, okay, if that's the case, like if the coaching staff, it's on the coaching staff either way, because if that's the case, the coaching staff is set up the offensive line to fail, or they've set up their quarterback to fail, or they're just not calling plays correctly. Like if it's that, I mean, there would be times where Peyton would get sacked, but it'd be like 4 or 5 seconds after the ball is snapped. Like, how much time are we asking for? Why are we running plays that take that long to develop? Cal didn't run plays that took that long to develop. Mendoza got it, he let it go. So to me, like, if that is the issue, you can fix that with scheme, and that's 100% on the coaching staff. That's why I'm like, let's back off of the O-line for just a second. I want to see that for a few weeks here, because you can call this offensive line is good enough to win with the scheme that Hugh Freeze has used at other places. To me. to me. Outcast says they just had a better game plan, I feel like. Maybe, I mean, execution-wise, 100%. 100%. Because, like, I don't really know what Auburn's game plan was offensively. It's clear what it was in the second half. They wanted to run the ball, and then they'd get it running, and then they'd pass it, and he'd get sacked. So, like, I don't know what it was to come out with. Zach is asking, Zach, spelled Z-A-C-H. Zach, how do you think this affected recruiting? I think time will tell. You know, there's all that smoke around Deuce Knight. He was here. I think I could go two ways. You know, Jake said, all right, if I'm a quarterback and I see that, it's like, cool, I'm going to come in and fix this thing. And there's going to be other people that say, I'm going to stay away from that. So it probably just depends on the kid and the sales pitch, for sure. For sure. All right, I'm going to hop off. Please like the video. Please subscribe. Daryl and I will have a show that drops tomorrow morning that we're about to record. Breaking this down a little bit more. He went to the presser. He said it was apparently the shortest press conference in the history of Auburn athletics. So fascinated to see what that's like. Auburn loses to Cal 21-14 in pretty devastating fashion. Thank you guys for hanging out for a few minutes. And yeah, we'll figure it out. Once again, like the video, please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.